What is a microaggression? 11 things people think are fine to say, but are actually racist, sexist, or offensive. Microaggressions are indirect, often unintentional expressions of racism, sexism, ageism, and ableism. These can make people feel undervalued, unappreciated, and generally offended. It's important to understand types of microaggressions to avoid them. Prejudice, bias, and discrimination at schools, universities, and workplaces are a lot more common than people would like to admit. A survey by Glassdoor of 1,100 US employees found that 61% of US employees had witnessed or experienced workplace discrimination based on age, race, gender, or LGBTQ identity. Some of this plays out in a form of microaggressions, or indirect, often unintentional expressions of racism, sexism, ageism, or ableism. They come out in seemingly innocuous comments by people who might be well-intentioned. Racial microaggressions are brief and commonplace daily. Verbal, behavioral, or environmental indignities, whether intentional or unintentional, that communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative racial slights and insults towards people of color. From telling a new female worker that she looks like a student, to asking a black colleague about her natural hair, microaggressions often exist. And they can make people feel uncomfortable, unsafe, and toxic. Because microaggressions are often communicated through language, it is very important to pay attention to how we talk in the workplace and other social institutions like classrooms, courtrooms, and so on. Because microaggressions are so subtle, it's often hard to know if you're committing one or if you're on the receiving end. One thing is that they are in a sense ambiguous, so that the recipient is apt to feel vaguely insulted, but since the words look and sound complimentary on the surface, they're most often positive, they can't rightly feel insulted and don't know how to respond. Here, we summarize some of the most common microaggressions. Number 1, you're so articulate. When a white person tells a person of color, you're so articulate, or you speak so well, the remark suggests that they assumed the person in question would be less articulate and are surprised to find out they aren't. A white dominant society expects people of color to be less competent. What to say instead? Nothing. You can comment people on their specific ideas or insights, but commenting on how people speak is unnecessary. Number 2, you're transgender? Wow, you don't look like it at all. Telling a transgender person that they don't look trans might appear to be a compliment. But trans people know that while these people have good intentions, it's an offensive comment that implies being trans isn't desirable. They assume if people are trans, their ultimate goal must be to look as much like a binary cis male or female as possible, and that trans masculine or feminine folk who don't look like cis men or women have somehow failed that unstated goal. It indicates that the speaker feels looking as close as possible to cisgender should be what trans people aim for. What to say instead? Say nothing. Number 3. Oh, you're gay? You should meet my friend Anne. She's gay too. If someone you know of any sexual orientation wants your help meeting new people, they'll ask you. One of the things that the LGBTQ community encounter is that classic suggestion that many well-intentioned straight people pull out for LGBTQ friends and family, offering to set them up with another LGBTQ person they know. Just because two people you know have one thing in common doesn't mean they'd be a match. Yes, there are fewer people they can date, but that doesn't mean they don't have standards in personality type, values, and everything else you care about too. This would be like setting up a straight friend or colleague with a random straight person you know of the opposite gender, just because they happen to both have the same sexual orientation. What to do instead? Say nothing. If your colleague of any sexual orientation wants your help meeting new people, they'll ask you. Number 4, my boss is crazy. Calling your female boss crazy or hysterical has sexist undertones because these words have a long, problematic history. In the past, especially in 19th century Europe, women who had anxiety or were seen as troublemakers were often diagnosed as being hysterical. The word hysterical comes from the Greek word hystera, meaning uterus, signifying that the so-called disease was specific to women. So when you call a woman crazy, it suggests that her concerns or actions are illogical, rather than the result of critical thinking. What to say instead? Try to understand the person's viewpoint rather than ascribing their actions as illogical. If you still don't agree, you could say, I don't understand her perspective on this. Then ask her for her insights. Number 5. Where are you actually from? If the person in question wants to discuss their identity, they can bring it up at their own discretion. Asking someone about their ethnic heritage appears to be just a way to get to know someone. But for Latinos, Asians, and people who fall in between the black-white racial binary, the question gets tiresome. Rather than asking anyone, where are you really from, try listening or letting that person ask you a question instead. Receiving that question again and again can imply that a person doesn't truly belong in their country just because of their appearance. What to say instead? Nothing. If the person in question wants to discuss their identity, they can bring it up at their own discretion. Number 6. The way you've overcome your disability is so inspiring. You shouldn't be shocked when someone you know with a disability is able to accomplish just as much as their able-bodied peers. Too often do we forget that people with disabilities too have to deal with microaggressions regularly. They can take place in everyday conversations, making them hard to call out unless you want to be looked down upon for making a big deal out of nothing. If you have a friend who has a disability, avoid tropes like telling them that their disability is inspiring or tiptoeing around it by referring their disability to a special need. In other words, you shouldn't be shocked when your friend with a disability is able to accomplish just as much as their able-bodied peers. What to do instead? Say nothing. Number 7. Your name is so hard to pronounce. If you can't pronounce somebody's name, just ask them how to say it. Don't point out that it's foreign or unfamiliar to you. The remark suggests that the person in question does not fit in culturally or linguistically, and that their identity is not worth taking time to learn about. What to say instead? Ask them how to pronounce their name and remember it. Number 8. Do you even know what Snapchat is? Age discrimination is a serious problem in many places. Those who believe that only people in those teens, 20s and 30s could possibly know about memes and Twitter are stereotyping older people. And while joking about your grey-haired friends' texting habits seem innocent, age discrimination is a serious problem in many places. These sort of innocent comments can lead to, say, older workers not getting new training opportunities, being left out of the social circle, and other signs of illegal age discrimination. What to do instead? Once again, say nothing. Number 9. Are you an intern? You look so young. There's no reason to comment on a colleague or friend's appearance. By complimenting a woman on her appearance in a professional setting, you are reinforcing sexist beliefs about women's worth. When an older male colleague tells a younger female colleague, you look so young, or you look like a student, the comment focuses attention on her appearance rather than on her credentials, and it may subtly undermine her authority on the job. Remarking on someone's apparent youth also implies that they seem inexperienced or potentially unqualified for their job. What to say instead? Nothing. There's no reason to comment on a friend or colleague's appearance. If you genuinely want to know their job title, look it up in a company directory. Number 10. Interrupting. Well, actually, I think Men are nearly 3 times as likely to interrupt a woman than another man. The New York Times called men interrupting women a universal phenomenon. It is not uncommon when a man parrots the same idea as the woman he interrupted, receiving all the credit for it. What to do instead? Wait for the person to finish their thought. And if you like their idea, give them credit. Number 11. Why do you wear that? If you're curious about why religious people choose to wear certain articles of clothing, read articles or books by those who do it. Those who are Jewish, Sikh, Muslim, or another religion and choose to wear religious head coverings might get overly probing questions at work. In reality, that one person isn't a representative of the entire religion. Muslim women who wear a hijab, for instance, often say that people ask them if they're bald underneath, or someone is forcing them to wear a hijab. What to do instead? Say nothing. Don't stare, don't judge. If you're curious about why religious people choose to wear certain articles of clothing, read articles or books by those who do it. Don't go around asking random colleagues about their life choices. Those are 12 of the most common microaggressions. Please be considerate, be respectful, and don't make unnecessary comments. Please like and subscribe to our channel for the latest updates. This is Leia Zhu from ZChannel. Thanks for watching.